Right, I got to start with this. I am just so amazed that there are so many people at the very last. So I got to take a picture. That is awesome. Right, I am so excited that you're here because very last talk of a conference is always difficult. Great summary. This is actually going to be a very new talk. I haven't done this talk before, so I'm kind of excited. It's something that just hit me recently, that it's an obvious thing that I've always been doing, but not many people do it. So I wanted to share this with you so you have a little bit of hopefully a lesson that you can put in even tomorrow at work. All right, let's start off with some things about me. The most important 5 minutes of a leader. Right. Let's start off with me so you know why I'm here, why would I even be talking to you. Everybody know who this is? Bob the Builder. Okay, that's pretty much me. Okay, what I've noticed is every place that I've been, that's kind of been my thing. In most companies, in my life, I've been building teams. Whether it's been at some of these companies, these are some of the companies that I've been at. EPAM Systems is a big outsourcing company here in Poland. Now they're over 1,000 people strong. I was the very first employee. So if any of you have a headache of working with them, that's my fault, yes. IBM, I worked in IBM for a while. I was leading up IBM's biggest project, which now is, from what I understand, nearly 1,000 people strong, taking over the entire Allianz infrastructure. 158 data centers around the world, consolidating into 5. So you can imagine what fun it was building a team that could do that. So I did that for IBM. Really awesome thing. I was probably the most evil person at IBM. I was given something called breakages. I was allowed to break every single project within IBM in order to make my project happen. That's a talk in itself, how to do that without breaking any other projects. SolarWinds, it's an IT company that has a development center in Kraków. I built that from scratch. I was the very first one. SKK was the first different project that I had. I took over as the CEO, a Polish company that was on the market for 20 years that kind of stopped. It became a little bit stale, and the owners decided that they wanted a transformation. They wanted somebody to come in and transform the company. Awesome fun, great fun transforming a company. As you know, transformation most of the time is about people, so that was a cool thing, how to kind of strip the company down and rebuild the teams. And then Amazon Alexa. I worked for Amazon. I headed up their office in Gdańsk, working on Amazon Alexa. If any of you have an Alexa, yes, it does record everything that you say. There's no doubt about it. I can confirm that. The very first thing that Alexa does is we had a whole team of people, literally a couple hundred people, that would listen to the recordings to check whether the keyword was said, which is either Alexa, computer, Amazon, or something else, to see if it was recording at the times when it was supposed to. But yes, it really truly does record stuff, and there's some really weird stuff that people say. So yeah, that was my project. And here at the bottom, I suppose I have to put that in, Shell Energy. Right now, I'm working for Shell Energy. Shell Energy is a company that was recently called First Utility. It's a English utility company that sells electricity and broadband in the UK. And Shell bought them recently, rebranded to Shell Energy. So we're a non-integrated entity alongside Shell, and we're selling electricity. And here in Poland, we do most of the technology for Shell Energy and some of the customer support here in Kraków. So I had to build that team as well and maintain the technical team here in Kraków. But I think that's real fun is this, okay? The Kraków Kings. I'm an American football coach. Yes, it's the sport with the helmets and pads and all of that stuff. And a lot of the lessons that I grabbed from football, I take into business and then from business into football because I think it's incredibly important. Before we go there. Now what's important is the reason why I say all these things so that you understand where I come from, where are all these things, because all the things that I'm going to tell you today are basically from personal experience. I'm not, I do quite a lot of trainings when it comes to team building and things like that, and one of the first things I say is, I am not a trainer. I am not a professional trainer. I am a practitioner. This is what I actually do every day. Building teams, running teams is something that I do every day. So every single thing that I try and impart on you is from personal experience. I'm not afraid to talk about failures, and I will mention some failures today. Some of you that remember me from the Let's Manage IT conference 2 years ago, I did a whole talk about a gigantic failure that I had with my team. Because I think we learn a lot more from failures sometimes than we do from successes. Plus, it's kind of easy to get up at a conference and say how great we are. It's a lot more difficult to say that we screwed something up. So I'm going to try and be as open as I can. So now, to the meat of what I'm going to be talking about today. How many of you can read my mind? I'd probably say nobody. Okay? I mean, most people would probably guess that my wife probably can read my mind, or thinks that she does, or I think that I can read her mind. But the truth is, none of us can read each other's minds. So my question is, why do we expect the people in our teams to read our minds? Because we all do it. How many of you have got up in front of your team and said what's on your mind? Have explained what you like, what you don't like, and how you expect them to work in those words? Okay, I've seen one hand up, 2, 3. Why not everybody? Okay? But don't do it like this. Okay? Politicians do this, right? The first thing politicians do is do an expose. They get up and they explain to you what they're going to do. Okay? We need to tell the truth, that's very important. But an expose, 5 minutes of an expose, is the most important thing you can do when it comes to running a team. You need to get up in front of your team, no matter what size team it is, no matter what stage it is, and explain to them what game we are playing. Half the time, most of the time, if you haven't done this, your team doesn't even know what sport they're playing, let alone how they're supposed to be playing it. Am I supposed to kick the ball, or am I supposed to pick it up and run with it? Or do I have a bat to hit it? If you haven't explained that, how are they meant to know how they're meant to be playing and what they're meant to be playing? Now think about it this way. Have you stood in front of your team and explained exactly how we're going to be working? And it's a tragedy that most of us haven't done this. Okay? It's incredibly important that we do it. We need to get up in front of our team and do an introduction. Clearly identify the situation. What situation are we in? Okay? Whether you're a new boss, whether it's a new year, whether it's something else. But you get up in front of your team. Explain your values. What is most important to you as the leader? What things do you value the most important things? And what you value in the team and how you're going to be working. The principles. What are your principles? What things will you stand by? What things are most important to you? Okay? The positive and negative attitudes. Okay? What kind of behaviors you're going to expect from them, and what kind of behaviors you're not going to accept. Okay, imagine a situation. For those of you who are Polish, you've heard of the kwadrans studencki. For those of you who are not Polish, basically, quarter of an hour is a standard thing among students that, when you're supposed to turn up at 5 o'clock, as long as you turn up within 15 minutes, it's okay, right? And it's acceptable, right? Now imagine a situation where, me as a leader, I don't accept that. My mother's the prime example. To her, 5 o'clock means 5 o'clock. 30 seconds after 5, you're late. And there's a serious conversation about you being late. Okay, or me. So imagine a situation in which your team runs on the 15 minutes, right? Mañana, it's 15 minutes. You, there, ready to start the meeting. You start on time at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, whatever the case may be, and your team rolls in 5 past, 10 past. No problem, sit down. And you're getting annoyed. You're being disrespected. Every single time you want to start a meeting at 5, they're coming in late. And what does the team think? What's his problem? Why is he annoyed? Every single time we have our status meeting, every week, he's annoyed. I mean, I come in, I'm smiling, I'm all happy. I say, hello, how you doing? And he looks at me as if I've done something wrong. What is his problem? Well, my problem is going on time. But did I tell them? Did I set those rules at the very beginning and say, listen, one of my pet hates is being late. Maybe it's a bad thing, maybe it's a good thing. It's the way I've been brought up. I start on time. So please show up to all meetings with me on time. The 15 minutes grace period is not something that I can deal with. It's got to be on time. Pretty simple message, right? Now we don't have that friction right from the beginning because we already know what the rules are. So now the chances are if I do turn up 10 minutes late, what's going to be my first response? Really sorry, hell broke loose, I had to put out a fire, I know that you really want us to be on time, I'm really sorry. Okay, cool, the person respects the values and the rules that I've put in, no problem, it can happen once to anybody. Huge difference, right? From one simple conversation at the very beginning. Mind blown, right? It's so simple. Looking towards the future, we need to say what we want to do as a team. Moving forward, how we want to do things. We need to look forward to the future, so the team needs to know what the goal is. When I sit down with my sports team, I tell them what the goals are. Okay? Now, importantly, do you think that a championship is always a goal for a sports team? To win a championship? Yes, no? No. If you're 100% sure that your team is mature and they can deal with losing an entire season in 5 minutes, then it's okay. But I heard a very intelligent coach say once, he cannot afford to put a whole season on the 10 minutes of a game. Last year, my team had 70 practices, and we only had 7 games. 70 practices, 7-0. 2 hours each, plus theory sessions, plus going to the gym and all that stuff. And only 7 games. So imagine if I put all of that work onto 70 minutes of the game. I can't allow 70 minutes to define the entire season. Because if that 70 minutes doesn't go well, how do I bring the team back up? How do I motivate them next year? Okay, so you need to set goals that are a lot more realistic. They're not necessarily fallbacks, but that we can celebrate and then we can go forward and achieve bigger things. Okay, what else? Clarity. Speak clearly. I was thinking recently, why the hell are contracts so complicated? Why can't we just do it in plain language? It would be so much simpler. Okay? And how often do we, talk in meetings in complex languages? We do huge reports that are simply difficult to read. Let's keep things clear. Speak in plain language. Every country has that at some point. I remember in England when I was living there was a plain English campaign. Let's just speak plain English, clearly, concisely. We had the same thing in Poland at one point. It makes things a lot simpler. Importance. Okay? Stress the importance of teamwork and what's important to you and how we're going to be doing things together. And the most important thing in your expose, you need to do it in such a way that people can identify personally with what you're putting in. If you set goals and rules and attributes in your team that the people cannot identify with, the team's not going to work. Okay? You need to understand your people, you need to understand the individuals in your team. And then coherence of the leader, team, and organization. And what does that mean? Okay? The goals of your team, of the team, of your personal goals, the team's goals, and the organization, they all need to align in some way. Now, they are not the same. Remember, they can be completely different, not completely different, but they can be different. Okay? In the Kings, for example, we have our senior team, our B team, we have the junior team. Now, the organization might want the junior team to win a championship every single time, but that's not my goal. The coach of the A team, he wants me to bring up good players. He wants every year 10 and 15 players to graduate from my junior program, so he's got players ready to plug into his organization. But that's not necessarily my goal. My goal is to help raise good people. And I just happen to use sport in order to achieve that. So generally the goals are the same, but they're a little bit different. And the same thing with your teams. Your goals are going to be a little bit different from the goals from the organization, but they all need to somehow merge together. So let's take a look at an example, because I've talked some theory, and now let's see what an expose could look like. So let's imagine a situation where we have a newly promoted manager of a sales team. Okay? He gets up to do an expose for his team. Okay, let's see what an expose could look like. Okay? So I'll read this out for you. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be able to work with you in a new role. I know most of you very well, and I hope that I will be able to get to know the others better in the next few weeks. Okay, cool start. Until recently, I was your colleague. However, the situation has changed, and now I have other duties. I have become your manager. This new function demands a change in the style of work for me. I would like you to remember that despite the change in position, I am still the same person, and any possible changes in my behavior are not because I have become conceited or I'm trying to be superior. Okay? As most of you know, the most important things for me are mutual respect, honesty, and open communication. I hope that we will all follow these principles. My goal is for us to be one of the three best sales teams in our company. Without your experience and support, this will not be possible. In particular, I am counting on the support of those of you with the most experience in our company. I also want to mention the behaviors and attitudes that I will not tolerate, which include lying, providing incorrect information in sales reports, and the unwillingness to help others. At the same time, I will recognize engagement and integrity in the realization of our sales plans. To sum up, our aim is to become one of the three best sales teams. We are driven by openness and respect. I will not tolerate lies and the unwillingness to help others. Is that clear? Do we have any questions? Okay, pretty simple, right? Now imagine a situation where your new boss does that. We have everything. We know what we're going to be doing. Okay? We have an introduction. We've clarified the situation where we're at. Okay? We've had our values, right? We know what the values are going to be. We have the principles. We have the positive and negative behavior. What negative behaviors will not tolerate? Lying, incorrect reports. Okay? The positive attitudes, supporting each other. All that was stated. We're looking towards the future. We want to become one of the best three teams in our organization. Okay? How simple is this? And how often don't we do it? Okay? So now most of you are thinking, oh yeah, but it's too late, right? I've already have a team, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Find any possible excuse to do this. Anything at all. Okay? It's a new quarter, right? We're about to start a new year. Meet your team and say, you know what, we're starting a new year. I want to start off with an expose. I want to tell you what we're going to be doing. Okay? It's a new month. It's a new project. It's a new product. You know what? I've just come back from a conference. Somebody said something interesting. I want to try it out with you guys. Any excuse, but please do it. If you haven't already done it, please do it. Now when you look at this, think how disadvantaged your team is if you haven't done it. They have to read your mind. They don't know how to work with you. Once you've done this, life should be pretty easy. Okay? They'll know what not to do, what kind of things will bug you, what kind of behavior is going to get them in trouble. They know what kind of things they should focus on, what they really should be doing. They have a goal. They know what direction we're going to go in. Okay? Does this make sense? It does, isn't it? It's a bit of a, when I first had somebody sort of lay this out this simply, I thought, wow, this really makes sense. Then I started looking at my career, and have I been doing this? And I started analyzing, when did I not do it? And suddenly I realized, the time when I didn't do it, that's when I had the most issues with those teams. That's when things were uphill. That's when I was like, this isn't working as I would like it to be, as I would like it to work. Because I had one understanding and the team had a different understanding. And any time I've had a failure, it started off with not doing this properly. So I implore you, please try and put this in as soon as you can, because it will make a huge difference to you. If your boss hasn't done it, okay, send them to me and I'll explain to them how to do this. Okay? But sit down with them and say, listen, I just heard a great thing, I was presumption that it's a great thing, but tell them that I don't fully understand what our goals are. I don't fully understand what kind of things you tolerate, what kind of things we should be doing. Can we sit down and do this? I spoke to somebody recently at our company when I explained this to him, and he said, you know what? I took over a team 2 months ago, and My team members have asked me for this twice. The team members themselves actually asked for this. But he didn't kind of understand what they were saying. He just thought they were kind of moaning and asking for, what are the corporate goals and what direction it is. That's not what they were asking for. When he read this, he said, this is exactly what they're asking for. They wanted to understand how they should behave within the team, so that they could move forward and it could be a success. Because once you get this out of the way, then you can focus on your own work. Okay? That's it. It's that simple. Okay? It has worked for me every single time in my life, and I implore you to try and do this. So now, let's move to some questions. You gotta have some questions, come on.
How do you do that with your players?
With my players? Absolutely. Very first thing, this year, we have a new year. I stood in front of my players and said, right, these are the goals for my team. These are the kind of things that we're going to be doing. This is what's important to us as an organization. And some of the things I've laid out to them and said, listen, for me, it's incredibly important that we never ever argue. Players are not allowed to criticize other players. Coaches are there to make corrections in the way you play. The coaches are there to criticize the way you play. But as a player, you support your teammates at all times. You help him, you support him, you don't ever have a go at another player. That's something I will never accept in my team. Coaches, your role is to educate. And I said this in front of the team. The role of the coach is to educate, not just to make you better as athletes, but as people. We're here to educate and make you better people. Okay? So straight away into those behaviors that I will tell you. I said to them, I had to make sure I mentioned the timing. Said we start practice at a particular time, not 2 minutes after, not 5 minutes after. When we start practice at 7, you're ready, dressed, on the field, ready to play. Not coming out of the locker room at 7 o'clock, because that's something that I will not accept. I set out a goal. What is our goal this year? What do we want to achieve? Okay, I said to them that we want to get into the playoffs. Okay, and we want to win at least one game in the playoffs. That's our role. I said, we're going to aim for the championship, because that's something that we really want to do. But the championship is a secondary goal. I want us to have the best defense. So I gave them tangible things that we can do. I also said to them that it's important to me that as an organization, we help others. I always say that we don't have any money. We're a very poor organization. We're essentially the only money that we have is from subs, so whatever the players pay in order to play the game. But we have time. So I expect all players to spend some of their free time to go and do charitable work. So for example, we're going to go to a children's hospital as a team and spend some time with the sick kids in the children's hospital to make their life a little bit better. It's something that doesn't cost us any money, it just costs us some time, and I want us to do this because it's a value that is part of our organization. So it's something that I want them to do. Okay? And the reason why I did the expose is because I think it's a new season. So some of our goals have changed from last year. Okay? But I also had a similar expose just with my coaching staff, because these are two different things. Me as a head coach of the entire team is one expose, but also my coaching staff, and I have 6 coaches that coach with me, I had a separate expose with them to explain to them what kind of things that are important to me as a coaching staff and what we're supposed to be doing. Okay? Does that answer your question? Awesome. Okay?
So, David, we have one question on Slido,
Oh, cool.
and it's a good one, I believe. How leader can handle those team members who are just not listening into suggestion and a little bit disrespectful, or maybe not even a little?
I don't have that. And I'll tell you why. One of the presentations I do is about team building, and one of the things I talk about is you need to recognize, especially when you're recruiting people into your team, at what stage your team is. And the analogy I use is a river versus a stream. Okay? Imagine a very, very small stream. Okay? That's flowing down. If it's very, very small, if you put your shoe in that stream, what's going to happen? The water's going to have to flow around your boot, right? Because it's really delicate, it's really small. It cannot cover your shoe, it has to go around. But if you do the same thing in a river, the river's not even going to notice that you've put your shoe in there. It's just going to flow over. okay? Same thing happens with your team. If your team is at the very beginning of being set up, it's still fragile, it's still learning how to work together. If you bring in a very strong character, that one person can change the entire dynamic of the team. A disrespectful person, it will completely change everything. So you need to recognize, are you ready? You need strong characters in a team, definitely. But are you ready for those characters? Can the team handle that? Last year, when I was building the team, when I took over the youth team, I wasn't ready for those characters. So the places where I was recruiting, and the types of schools were, how can I describe it? They weren't from the difficult areas of the town, okay? Because I knew I couldn't have any of those strong characters, so I had to build a particular framework. This year, I have gone into the most difficult areas. I've even gone into children's homes, into really problematic areas, into even poprawczaki, which are kind of children's homes, yeah. Because now the team is strong enough to take those people in and essentially fix them themselves. The positive peer pressure that's in the team now, that one character will not be able to change the team. There's 50 other players that know a lot more, that already know the system, that know how we're going to, what our principles are. If you want to be part of it, you're going to have to conform. And I don't even have to do it as a coach. The players do it themselves. I couldn't do it last year, but now I'm ready. So that's why I say I don't have a problem with that, because it gets fixed by the culture of the team and of the organization.
Every organization, every entity has its own culture. We're not talking about strategy that's written down. We're talking about something that is not written down. So, any suggestions how you should make sure that your message, your contract is actually not against that culture, not against that character?
First of all, you have to understand that culture. You have to understand what is the culture of your organization, and then look at yourself and understand whether you fit within that culture and whether the team that you're going to be building is going to be synchronous with that. It might not align 100%, it might deviate a little bit, but essentially it needs to be similar. When I was at a large corporation, I was asked by my boss, said, you need to decide who you want to be. You can either be a strong oak tree, have strong principles, that no matter what wind comes in, it doesn't bend because of the principles, the strong principles, okay? But once every 100 years, there's the mother of all storms that rips everything out and it's going to rip that tree out with its roots. Or you can be the blade of grass that's on the sandbanks by the sea, okay? That with every single wind goes and comes back, goes and comes back. Which one are you? Neither is better than the other, but you have to understand which one you are. I know which one I am. I am that oak tree. I'm prepared to, I know that an organization will break me, and an organization has broken me. A big international corporation was stronger than me and had different principles and ripped me out with the roots. That's just life. Other people who are those blades of grass are in the organization going to be there for their lifetimes, and it works for them. So the first thing, before you can do anything else, you have to look in the mirror. You have to understand who you are. You are the most important person in your life. There's nobody more important in your life. Okay, now this is the point where people start disagreeing. Most of the people that have children, especially young children, will say, no, 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 my kids are the most important, right? Hands up who thinks that their children are the most important people in their lives. Okay, you're absolutely wrong. Okay? What will your kids do without you? If you disappear right now, what's going to happen to those kids?
Sweets.
Tragedy. They're going to get fat. They're going to eat sweets. Okay? You are the most important person. If you are lined up, if everything is right with you, then you can make sure your kids are in the right place. If you're not in the right place, they won't be able to. When you're on a plane, what's the instruction? First put a mask on the kid and then on yourself? It's the other way around, right? Because by the time you finish putting that mask, you might be dead. Okay, so you have to make sure you're okay first before you can help anybody else. It's the same thing here. You have to understand who you are. You have to understand whether you align with the company culture, and then start building the culture of your team or larger organization, whatever the case may be. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Cool.
I still monitor Slido in the background, so it's another good one. Did you proceed with expose on the difficult team situations? Like not only on the beginning, but when something wrong happens, bad performance, people leaving the team, and what type of information you focus then?
An expose is not to be done really when things are going bad. It's kind of too late by that point. An expose should be done at the beginning so that we know what game we're playing, what direction we're going. Things can go wrong, obviously, during that time. And yes, you can reset, sit down and say, right, let's remind ourselves of the values. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason why you can't do that. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to suddenly fix the problems that you have. Just simply restating some of the things, restating the fact that I'm not okay with you turning up late. Suddenly just saying it, if you said it in an expose and people carry on doing that, then you need to find another way in order to make that happen. I'll give you an example. People don't believe when I say this. When I was coaching the senior team, it's a fully amateur team, right? So every player pays 50 zloty per month in order to take part. So I made practices compulsory. You have to come to practice. If you don't turn up to practice, and if you don't let me know 24 hours in advance, you have to pay a fine. Can you imagine that? Not only are you paying to play the sport, the coach fines you money for not turning up to practice. When I tell this to other teams in the country, they're like, you're mad. There's no way you do this. We can't get guys to come to practice, and you're fining them money? I said, yeah. And it works. Because they understand that we have a goal. They bought into that goal, and they understand that the communication is key. I need to know whether they're going to come to practice or not. And it's not really the attendance practice, yes, that's one thing, but for me it's more about communication. I cannot afford a situation where I don't know who's going to be at practice. I have a particular plan for practice. Every single minute of that practice is planned out. Same thing as in a project, right? You have a project status, and if suddenly somebody just simply doesn't turn up to work, how the hell do you account for that? So it was basically helping me to account for that so that I can make changes 24 hours before practice, so I can change things in that practice so it doesn't affect other players. Suddenly we don't have a situation where, oh, we were supposed to be doing a drill together, this guy's not here, so I've got nobody to practice against. So I need to change that. But to get them to come to practice, I did something else. I did a positive thing. Okay? I did awards for players that turn up to 10 practices in a row without any excuses. I use helmet decals. We give players for their individual accomplishments of various things, they get a sticker, a helmet decal, and they can put it on the helmet. And obviously the more helmet stickers you have, the more sort of prestige in the team because you've got many achievements. And this was one of them. This is probably the easiest achievement there is. Simply show up for 10 practices in a row and you get a helmet sticker. So it was that positive aspect of trying to get people to come to practice. And the other one was the money that I collected from the fines that ended up going back to them anyway. Sort of when we had MVP awards after a game, they knew went back to them. So they were okay with it. Okay?
Do you adopt those principles from sport, you are applying them into your professional life as well?
Absolutely. Every single one of them. Okay, maybe not helmet stickers. No, actually, no. We don't have helmets at work, but similar things. Okay? There could be kudos points. There could be a simple thank you. At one point, I did a sort of a point system. I didn't have any budget to award anything to people. So what I started doing is I said, right, within the team, if you hit certain achievements and if you're sort of the best person of that month or whatever, you can have a day off. Nobody knew about it. HR didn't know about it. It was between us, And the team agreed that they would cover that. But everybody else takes on the workload of that person. That person gets, and it had to be on a Monday or a Friday, so they get a long weekend. And that person gets along. It didn't cost us anything. The rest of the team picked it up, and I felt this was a cool thing. The best person from the team that particular month gets that award, and everybody kind of chipped in with a little bit of their time to cover their work. So yeah, absolutely. Very recently, we did a thing. We wanted to do a recognition, so we simply bought a chocolate bar, 3 chocolate bars, and we asked people to get up and say, all right, grab the chocolate bar and give it to a member of the team saying why you think they deserve this chocolate bar. They did something special, something good, helped you out in some way, just in a meeting. How much is a chocolate bar? If you can make it a little bit unique, like I brought the chocolate bars from England, so I made sure it was something a little bit different. Is it better in quality? No, it's just different. So it was a kind of a cool award. It cost me, I don't know, 50 zloty. Oh, and then what we did once a quarter, I would mix it up a little bit, and we took those chocolate bars, put them in envelopes, and one of those envelopes would have 50 zloty in it. But you didn't know which one. So somebody got a little bonus of 50 zloty. Again, it was a cool thing, but you didn't know who it was. It was not like, oh, I'm definitely giving you 50 zloty. No, it was one of those people that got an award. So it was also another thing that, encouraged people to nominate somebody and give them that award. So yeah, definitely lessons in both. All right, I do have a quick request if I could. Okay, if you could take out your phones. I know you have your feedback inside the application, but I would like some personal feedback, and you can be brutally honest in this. This is very important to me. I always do this at conferences. I want to be better. I want to make sure that these talks are better every single time. So this is literally 4 questions, 5 questions. I know I didn't. This is true. I didn't agree with the organizers. Little favor for me if you could. Yeah, I've broken all the rules, exactly. I sent in the presentation late and everything else. But if you could just fill in a couple of things for me, that would be really helpful. I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck with your teams. Thank you.